Let's go. Tzephania, the first chapter. Dvar Adonai Shariel, Tzephania ben Kushi, ben Gedalia, ben Armaria, ben Chizkiah, Bimei Yoshov, and Amon Melech Yudah. So these are the words to Tzephania. And unlike most prophets here, we're really told his lineage. We're told he has a father named Kushi and a grandfather named Gedalia, and a great-grandfather named Amaria, and a great-great-grandfather named Chizkiah. And this is all during the days of the king Yoshio. So those who try to say that maybe he was a descendant of Chizkiah, here is Chizkiah the king. There's the decent amount of time between Chizkiah, the second to last great king of Yehuda, of the Davidic dynasty, and Yoshiyahu, the last great king. So it could make sense based upon the years, but it's unclear if that is exactly the case. Just Yoshiyahu is the son of Ammon, who was the son of Menashe. Menashe and Ammon were terrible kings, and Yoshiyahu is a great king who leads repentance, leads people back to God, and has a big Pesach, amongst other things. That's described. He's a great king. But let's see what Tzephania has to say about it. It's time. Asaf called me'al pnei adama numa Adonai. I'm going to sweep everything away from the face of the earth, says God. Asaf adamu ve'ma asafo hashamayim u'dgayam v'amachshelot tarishem v'chrati et adam me'al pnei adama numa Adonai. Sweep away the humans, the animals, the birds, the fish. The wicked will stumble. Destroy all of humankind. ונתתי ידי על יהודה ועל כל יושבי ירושלים. והכרעתי מן המקום הזה את שער הבעל, את שם הכהנים עם הכהנים. I'll stretch out my hand against Yehuda and all those who are in Jerusalem. I'm going to wipe away everything, all of the idolatry and all the priests who worship idols, right? A familiar idea in many of the later prophets about the destruction that is coming. And here, Tzephania is living at the time of Yoshio, who's a great king. So maybe this is when Yoshio has yet to start his repentance, or maybe this is towards the end of his life, and unfortunately trying to keep people, really together and following in the ways of God. And maybe some of them have strayed. The Talmud talks about how Yoshiyahu, there was a facade put up by many of the people that they claimed that they were repenting, but they really weren't, and they were still idolatrous. So there are a lot of different ways to try to understand how he's offering such a foretelling such a terrible prophecy during a time period with a great king and presumably a fairly pious group of Bnei Israel. But so those are some explanations that are given. Continuing verse 5. So those who bow down to the on the roofs to the different hosts of heaven, right, to the sun and the stars and the moon, not worshiping God, and those who swear by Malkam, by their own kings, perhaps it means by Molech, it's not by God. And those who forsake God and those who have not looked into God, be silent before God, because the day of God is approaching. There's a sacrifice that's getting ready, and all the people are going to purify themselves. And on that day, God says, I'm going to punish the officials of the king's son and all those who wear foreign garments. So is this literally foreign garments? Does it mean that their foreign garments are representative of their steep into idolatrous cultures or other cultures? Certainly, you think of the Haredim and their keeping to 18th or 17th or 19th century the clothing from Poland or Hungary, right? And everybody else is wearing malbush nachri, like me with my green jacket. Ufakadati al kol hadoleg ala miftan bayamahu am laim beit adoneim chamasu mirman. I'll punish away on that day everybody who crosses over the threshold of their master's palace, and everybody who uses Hamas and Mirma, trickery and fraudulence and lying and on that day, says God, there'll be a large outcry from the fish gate. Presumably that's understood as one of the gates of Jerusalem. And there's going to be a howling, a screaming out from the Mishnah, and great anguish from all over. There's going to be screaming out from the Machtesh. People are going to be saying that the traders have perished. All those who weigh silver are wiped out. So are they wiped out because they had their scales were improper, as we've seen other prophets talk about, based upon the mitzvah of Torah of having avnei tzedek and efat tzedek, about making sure that you're not ripping people off? Or is it just the destruction that's coming that's filled everybody all over the place? It's not clear, but each are certainly possible. Vayabetahi, we're in verse 12, Pasuk Yud Bet, Achapesi Jerusalem Banei Rot, V'kaleti al Nashim HaKofim et al Shomreihem, Omrim B'Livavam, Lo Yetev Adonai V'lo Yareh. That time, God says, I will search out Jerusalem with lamps and punish all those who rest untroubled and who say God will do nothing good or bad, a theme that we've also seen over and over again. Look, the temple of God is here. No destruction is going to happen. That's not the case. Their wealth will be plundered, their homes laid waste. They'll build houses and not dwell in them, plant vineyards and not drink their wine. Another thing that we've seen over and over again in these prophecies of destruction, that you plan, you do what you want, you think you're going to have a good yield, you build your house, you won't live in it. You plant your vineyard, you won't there's not going to be any grape or any wine for you, etc., etc. Karov, we're in verse 14. Yom Adonai Gadol Karov u'maher ma'od kol Adonai Mar Tzorach Sham Ibor, the great day of God. And of course, here great doesn't mean great and wonderful, but awestruck and horrendous, the way it's being described. It's approaching very, very quickly. It's going to be a bitter day. Even the warrior is going to scream out with bitterness. Yom Evra, Hayom Ahu, Yom Tzara, Mitzuka, Yom Shoah, Mishoah, Yom Choshech Vafela, Yom Anan V'Arafel. It's a day of wrath, of trouble, of desolation, of calamity, of darkness, of gloom. Yom Shofar Truah, Al Harim HaBetzrot V'Al Pinot HaGvot, a day of the horn blasts and alarms against the fortified towns and the lofty towers. And here, of course, we think the shofar, Truah, we think of Rosh Hashanah, we think about God, we think about our observance. And that's not here. Shofar here is not that it's a different instrument, but it's the shofar of warning of war. It's the alarm blasting that somebody has broken into the house. That's what this is. Somebody here, it's not just the house, obviously, it's the city, it's the country, but it's the alarm telling the warriors that they need to get moving to defend the city, but it's not going to work. What's going to happen to people? It's going to be tsaros. They're going to walk like blind men and women because they sinned against God. Blood will be spilled like dust, and their fat will be like dung on the floor, meaning it's going to be everywhere. Just like animals. I was in Israel, and there was a lot of dog poop on the floor, pretty disgusting. And that's what's going to be. It's going to be, people's bodies are just going to be decaying everywhere. That's the terrible image that he's giving here. Gam kaspam gabza havam lo yuchal latzilam beit avrat Adonai veish kinatot teichal kol haaretz ki chala ach nivhala ya'aset kol yoshvei haaretz. Their silver and gold won't save them on the day of God's wrath, and the fire of passion, the whole world will be consumed. God will make an end to that day. And here we know that this is the case. Doesn't matter how wealthy you are, doesn't matter how rich you are, when there's destruction and death, when there's, the Nazis didn't care how wealthy you are, and it doesn't matter how wealthy you are if you're in a society of lawlessness and destruction and killing, or natural disasters don't pay attention to how much you have. It's just destruction all around. And unfortunately, what is said here by Tzephania is that this is what is going to happen to Bnei Israel. You can understand his name as sort of Tzephania, Tzafun, different ways of understanding the name. Tzafun, which means hidden. So this is what's hidden maybe during his time period. There's a little bit of a time period of Yoshiyahu here where things have gotten better, where things are on the upswing, because of Yoshiahu's righteousness. The destruction of Jerusalem is stalled and will not happen during his time period, but happen some 50 or so years later. And so Tzephania, unfortunately, here comes and warns Bnei Israel of these horrors that are going to come, we know, with the ascendance of the Babylonian Empire.